So we're reading from the 14th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, text 11. So we don't have much time. I was also thinking that you could ask questions. So we'll quickly go through the verse and the purport a little, and you could raise your questions also. Sarvadvareshu dehi asmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidya vivridam sattvam ityuta sarvadvareshu dehi asmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tadvidya vivridam sattvam ityuta sarvadvareshu dehi asmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tadvidya vivridam sattvatam ityuta sarvadvare deyashmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidya vivridam sattvam ityuta Sarvadvareshu deyasmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidya vivridam sattvam ityuta sarvadvareshu prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidya vividam sattvam ityuta. Ladies. Okay, we'll do the word for word. Sarvadvareshu, in all the gates. Dehe asmin, in this body. Prakasha, the quality of illumination. Upajayate, develops. Jnanam, knowledge. Yada, when. Tada, at that time. Vidya, no. Vivridam, increased. Sattvam, the mode of goodness. Iti uta, thus it is said. The translation, the manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. There are 9 gates in the body: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus. When every gate is illuminated by all the symptoms of goodness, it should be understood that one has developed the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one can see the things in the right position. One can hear things in the right position. And one can taste things in the right position. One becomes cleansed inside and outside. In every gate, there is development of the symptoms of happiness. And that is the position of goodness. So this is a very beautiful purport. Do you all understand English, right? Okay. So this is a very beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada, and it's talking about knowledge. when one gets knowledge, one comes to the level of goodness. You know, in every part of the world, different sorts of knowledge are given. I come from South Africa, and in South Africa, you know, lots of people are also illiterate, and they may not have regular education or they haven't gone to school, but they have some knowledge. But what we're talking about, this knowledge, it's far different from the material knowledge one gets in school or other tertiary institutional education centers. It's completely different. The knowledge we are talking here of, it is something that's so sublime that brings you to the level of happiness. What is your definition of happiness? If I asked you what is happiness, how would you explain? What's your definition? You all are educated people, you're right? Peace. Okay. Peace, yes. What else? Anybody else? Inner fulfillment. You're all engineering students. Are you all engineering students? It's like inner engineering, right? Cleansing the inside, yes. Satisfaction. So it's a process, and one has to follow a process, and one has to get knowledge from the scriptures. So the knowledge from the scriptures are different from the material, mundane knowledge you get in school. Like our first understanding from the Vedic scriptures is that we're not the body, but spirit soul. So that is an important point, and you know, if one has that knowledge, then you may not have problems like you have in the West. Like in the country that I come from, there's apartheid problems, there's separate development. Indians live separately, whites live separately, but now it has changed, but superficially changed. But that was the system. But they don't have knowledge, so they contaminated because all the knowledge is based on the body. And Srila Prabhupada went in 1975 to South Africa, and he spoke at a university. And he was speaking on this point that you're not the body. So somehow that professor was a white man, and he got this intuition that this knowledge is very relevant, and it's true. But he was following the same principles of apartheid. You know, that everybody should live separately. We are different from the others. But somehow he got this information. He was hearing Prabhupada very carefully. And then he said that this knowledge should be taught in the universities, in that particular university. And Prabhupada wanted Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj to come there to South Africa to teach. But it really didn't happen. But anyway, we're giving a different type of knowledge. It is called knowledge in the mode of goodness. But it is not really knowledge on the level of spirituality. Because goodness is also under the modes of nature. Isn't it? It's like that. So we get different types of knowledge, on different levels. Passion, ignorance, and also goodness. Some people are in the mode of goodness, some people in the mode of passion, some people in the mode of ignorance. But the spiritual aspect takes place when one transcends the quality of goodness, when he rises above goodness. And he comes to that point that I am not matter but spirit. But still, more is required. There need to be some engagement. There must be some engagement. Like that verse in the Bhagavad-gita, chapter 18, text 54. Anybody knows it? Brahma bhuta prasanatma na sochati na kangsati. Sama sarve bhuteshu madbhakte labate param. So one who is transcendently situated, he doesn't lament or desires to have anything. So that's another level, and is equally disposed to every living entity. Then he attains pure devotional service. Now, devotional service, pure devotional service, is quite on a high platform. At least on the Brahma Bhuta stage, you don't identify with matter. And when as I was speaking, when you identify with the body, there's so much of problems. So the first symptom is that when one is established in that Brahma Bhuta platform, is that when he comes to the level of, he becomes very happy, jolly, becomes jolly. And as we said, there's no hankering and there's no lamentation. But that's not easy also. But still we have to take to, loving service to Krishna. We have to do something. It's like when you have children. Children will make some mischief. Then you give them some toys because they still need to be engaged. Is that not so? So engagement must be there. So similarly, there must be spiritual engagement. And then when you have spiritual engagement, and that's very good, because just having knowledge that you're the spirit soul will not help. This is how Prabhupada puts it. Will just not help. Just, that I'm spirit soul, but you don't do anything. Prabhupada said that he was kind of little, we would say, critical towards philanthropists. You know what philanthropists are? People who do philanthropic work, hospitals, and sometimes people, even sannyasis, they may get into building hospitals. And he was talking about this very much. And what they are trying to do is like patchwork. Is trying to take care of the body. But the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is that one get rid of material bodies. There's a difference. We are not doing patchwork. Like you've been to hospitals, you know what happens there. So there's many verses in the Gita. Can anybody say a verse that talks about knowledge? Anybody? One verse. Can you use a mic?
Raj Vidya Raj Guhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshavagamam Dharmam Susukham Kartum Avyayam.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. What does it mean?
Hare Krishna. Raj Vidya means it is the king of knowledge. Raj Vidya Raj Guhyam, it is most secret thing. Raj Vidya Raj Guhyam. Pavitram, it's most pure. Uttamam means it's the highest thing. And Pratyakshava means it is not only theoretically we can understand, but it can be practically experienced in our life.
Good point. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, Raja Vidya Rajuguyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam. So this is the king of knowledge. This Bhagavad-gita is the king of knowledge. In another verse, where in the 4th chapter, also text 39, where Krishna is saying, a faithful man who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. Because one has to control one's senses to become peaceful. Because if you cannot, if your senses desires everything that it sees and want to taste everything, the tongue want to taste everything, then you won't be peaceful. You won't be peaceful. And the example given in the Gita is the tortoise, right? It only engages its senses when it is required, otherwise it withdraws its senses. So there must be many, many rules and regulations, do's and don'ts. So like that, to rise above the modes of nature, this is very elementary knowledge. to rise above the modes of nature, one has to control his senses. And then one has to develop faith. What's the definition of faith? Having unflinching trust in something sublime. That's the definition in faith. And how faith is created? By association of devotees. So there are people who are hesitant and they don't have faith in Krishna consciousness. We find many people like that. They don't like to follow some authority. But at least the best authority to follow is Lord Krishna, right? Agree? So when you control your senses and you follow the scriptures, then you get cured from this material modes, being under the modes of nature. You'll be cured. So we have to have faith. There's so much we can speak on this topic, but it's already... Should we go on a little bit more? We still got time. 8:30, okay. So one, to get knowledge, we have to have a spiritual master. And when the spiritual master speaks, he's a representative of Krishna, we will feel satisfied, just as we're feeling satisfied upon eating a full meal. So you feel satisfied that the spiritual master is speaking, because he's repeating the words of Krishna. But ignorant persons, as the Gita explains, who doubt the revealed scriptures, do not attain God consciousness. For the doubting soul, there is no happiness, neither in this world or the next. So we have to rise at least above the level of just goodness. Being a good person. We often find that sometimes, I don't know if you'll experience that, people say, well, you're living in the temple, but we find people outside the temple better than y'all. They're much better than y'all. They're very humble. You hear that? But people who's surrendered their life, who've given their life to Krishna, they'll always be better than the people outside. That's what the Bhagavatam says. It's a scriptural injunction. Because they have submitted to the authority, even if they are not doing well. They have submitted to an authority, and they're trying to perfect their life. So they'll always be better. So you'll are very fortunate that you'll have this opportunity to practice God consciousness. So faith, faith are in different modes. And you have faith in the mode of goodness, and somebody in the mode of goodness worship the Devatas. Somebody in the mode of passion, they worship demons. And somebody in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. So people's faith are on different levels: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And it's dangerous. At least if somebody don't know who Krishna is, then they should worship the Devatas. It's not wrong. It's okay. Because that's what the Shastra says. Sometimes even as preachers and practitioners in Krishna consciousness, we think that, oh, he's worshipping Kali, he's bad. Not really. He's at least on the ladder. So it's not wrong, but it's not the best, the highest. So he's maybe in the level of ignorance, passion, ignorance. But he can rise himself. Like one Srila Prabhupada was asked, which is better, worship of Kali or worship of Jesus? He said, worship of Kali. Because you're still following the Shastra, the scriptures. So the knowledge is coming from the scriptures, and it's catering for all classes of people of different modes, who's in goodness, passion, and ignorance. So like that, and sometimes people in ignorance worship ghosts and spirits. And people also undergo austerity. Sometimes, I don't know in this country, but in other parts of the world, they go through some severe austerities that are not recommended in scriptures. And they perform them out of pride and egoism, as the Bhagavad-gita states in the 17th chapter. And then what they do, they destroy the elements of the body. It's destroyed. Because the Paramatma is within the body alongside the soul. So it affects both the Paramatma and the individual soul. So people do these austerities, severe austerities. They would fast. Sometimes people would just undergo a fasting for some political purpose. Do they have this in prison sometimes? People will just go on a strike. They wouldn't eat, a hunger strike. But then they're destroying the elements of the body. This is in the mode of ignorance. Sometimes you find this, even political leaders of India in the past have done this. But it's very dangerous. One time in one temple, I was like away from where I live, it's in another city. And somehow they got polluted with some followers. And they were fasting for like many weeks. Nobody was eating. And when you went there, when I went there, I just could see that these people have lost it. And then we quoted that verse from the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, that this is not recommended. It can bring you down to a low level. It's going to affect the elements of the body. And it's going to harm you. And they were losing it. They're losing their memory. So it can affect you. So that is in the mode of ignorance. So we must follow the scriptures to attain that peaceful peace and happiness. Then we'll speak about a little bit more about, but in the verse itself, it talks about, in the purport itself, it talks about different types of tastes and faith, and the faith the person is in, if he's in a lower level, he'll have taste for, for example, food. He may like non-vegetarian food. How many of y'all are all vegetarians here? Everybody? Oh, very good. Very good, because when I'm traveling in the plane, I see people from India. They put their head the other side because they see me like a sadhu in my dhoti. They can't look at me, but they're eating meat. So that's not good. Foods that are dear in the mode of goodness, they increase the duration of life. The Gita explains all this in the 17th chapter. You can read them. Nice food, juicy, fatty. But decomposed food, like, in South Africa, they hold fishes, like, they sell fishes in the street. They do that in India here too? They're selling the fish, they say, fresh fish, but it's dead. It's dead, but it's fresh. Fresh fish, but it's dead. Fresh means just caught now, but anyway, it's dead. So anything dead is decomposed. So we have like that, different things, different types of food. But again, coming to the material world, everybody is drowning. Sometimes the material world is compared to an ocean, and sometimes it's compared to be a forest, blazing forest of fire. But when it's like an ocean, somebody is drowning. Somebody is floating on the waves. Like he's on the wave, he's in the middle of the ocean, he's floating, and his hands are back. But he's not drowning. He's just being tossed around. But he's floating on top of the wave. That person is in the mode of goodness. You can compare that to the mode of goodness. The person in the mode of passion is just keeping his head up. And he's treading the water. That person is in the mode of passion. But the person in the mode of ignorance is being pushed down and under the waves and drowning. That person is in the mode of ignorance. This is how Prabhupada described it. So, we are experiencing this type. We all experience that. Sometimes we use this phrase, my head is just above water. Because I'm just making it. You get it? And sometimes you're drowning. So we have to rise above that. And we spoke about sense control. We spoke, and the purport explains about the 9 gates. And the 9 gates, the 2 eyes, the nostril, the ears, the rectum, the genitals. These are the 9 gates. But all these 9 gates, now you are young, it's functioning very well. But when you get old, like I'm using glasses, I can't see, my eyes is bad. Then your ears, you'll have to have hearing aid, isn't it? Later on. So many things. Then your nostrils get blocked. Then you have to sniff some medicinal containing some ammonia or whatever, like that. Different things you have to do for the body. And if you can't pass urine, then they use a nozzle. Different appliances are used. But there's 9 gates. It must be, you have to cleanse your body. You have to clean it inside and you have to clean it outside. Like we take bath and we clean it outside. Like once I asked one person, how do you clean the inside? So he was talking about taking laxatives. He didn't realize that cleaning the inside means internally cleaning your consciousness, your senses, your mind. Where is the mind? The mind is in the region of the heart. Where is it? In the region of the heart. Isn't it? Because people normally point here, mind. But the mind is in the region of the heart. The mind is a storehouse of thoughts from this life and previous life. It's in there in the region of the heart. And therefore, normally we refer to people who are spiritual. Or sometimes people say, hey, but this fellow, he goes to the temple, but his heart is not clean. He's a devotee, he lives in the temple, but his heart is not clean. Because that's where the mind is. The mind is a subtle element, and we have to cleanse the mind. And as we cleanse the mind, internally and externally, then we become very bright and happy. Like, see all these devotees here seated here? They're all very bright and happy. They're very happy. So, there's so much to say on this point. There's so much of information, so much to talk about. But, death will come. And death also are in different modes. If you die in the mode of goodness, then you go to pure higher planets where the great sages live. But you don't go back to Krishna's planet. To Brahma Loka, like that, to higher planets. Do you want to go there? How many of you want to go to Brahma Loka? Oh, you. Okay. What are you going to do there? Huh? Oh.
I don't want to go now.
You don't want to go?
Yeah.
Why?
Because this is
Why you don't want to go?
because I want to go to the Vaikunth, Vrindavan.
I go to Vaikuntha. Okay. Anybody want to go to other planets? So people in the mode of passion, they may go to heavenly planets. They may engage in fruitive activities, like many Hindus, what they do. And then the life ends, they take birth again. But then the people who die in the mode of ignorance, what happens to them? They go to animal kingdom. They go to lower forms of life. So do you want to go to lower form of life? Yes or no? Huh? Because you will take a form of grass sometime, or some lower species, depending on the consciousness you live. And the 14th chapter, this chapter of Bhagavad-gita explains these points. So one has to check himself, what I should do and how I should advance in Krishna consciousness. There's a verse in the Gita, in the 18th chapter, and I'll read that verse. I found it interesting before I came here. So I was told to give the class, and I was looking at something, then I came here. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion, and religion to be irreligion, under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strive always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance. Because nowadays, we give emphasis or we place importance on people who are not spiritual as spiritual. They're like shopkeepers, general dealers. They can give you anything you want. And we give them importance. And then we take a common man, yes, common man. And we don't give importance to the Shastra, to the scriptures. Like all the people here seated here, born in Bharat, you are very fortunate because your birth is pious. The demigods, the devatas are hoping, they're thinking, what have these people done to take birth in Bharatvarsh? What have they done? So you're very fortunate. We should take advantage of this Vedic culture. We are foreigners, we coming from the other part of the world, and we trying to embrace this philosophy of Bharatvarsh. And religion become irreligion. Irreligion is given more prominence. And one has to somehow follow the scriptures, Bhagavad-gita, specifically Bhagavad-gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other scriptures. And we follow nicely, then you can go back to Krishna. And you'll all want to go to Krishna, you'll all will go back to Krishna. So we thank you very much. We have a few minutes, we can take some questions. Any questions or comments? Comments also? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you for your lecture. Prabhupada used to say that Jesus Christ is also a Vaishnava. He is real son of God. So why following him is not good? Because if you follow him, if any Christian people, they follow their religion nicely, then they will upgrade in Sanatan Dharma. They will get chance to practice devotional service. So, but this is indirect, like worshipping Kali is also indirect, not. So how we can understand this?
Okay, Srila Prabhupada wanted to give a commentary on the Bible. He wanted to give the essence of the Bible. But he didn't. Then he thought it may not be appreciated by the Westerners, and he didn't do it. So he wanted to do that to give the essence of what's in the script, in the Christian faith. We don't decry the Bible, but at the same time, it doesn't give you pure devotional service. So in that light, but there are more chances of one being following Kali to come up than following another path to come to pure devotional service. It'll be easier in that sense. So in that sense, Jesus Christ has the qualities, tolerant. He was like you would say a Shakshtavesh avatar, and he was giving, he was preaching to people, but the people that he was preaching to were at a lower level. For example, in Bharatvarsh, Krishna is speaking. He is going to the topic of you're not the body, you're spirit, soul. Love thy God with all the heart and all thy soul. Love thy neighbor as thyself, like that. Do not commit adultery. All these are moral principles that we follow already. So the Vedic scriptures, it's like in the first chapter of the Gita, in the first chapter of the Gita, it says, Bhagavad-gita is a widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Maya. There it says that one should read Bhagavad-gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretation. The example of clearly understanding is there in the Gita itself, in the way the teaching is understood by Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from the Lord. If someone is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad-gita in that line of disciplic succession, without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all Vedic wisdom and all the scriptures of the world. That's what it says. Does that answer the question? One will find in Bhagavad-gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not found elsewhere. That is the specific standard of the Gita. It is perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. That's a good answer, right? From Prabhupada's purport. So Prabhupada wanted to do that, give that, write a commentary on it. But then it won't be appreciated by the West because he was from India. But still, the Gita is far superior to all other scriptures because it's spoken by God himself. Spoken by Krishna himself. Isn't it? Is it okay? Any other comments? Yes.
Just like in the translation it is mentioned that all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. So what does it mean and how we can how we can apply it in our life?
You see, the thing is, all the senses, just like when you go to a traffic light, you see green, yellow, and red. You see different colors, right? You see different colors. But the perspex on the top is different color. But the light is the same behind the perspex, isn't it? It's the same color. But it's projected to that perspex. It looks green, it looks orange, and it looks red. But it's the same light. So when one's senses are perfect, those senses projected to this through this body, he sees everything perfectly. That's what's in the purport. There's to see something if you read in the purport. So that is how it works. It makes sense. So when we're talking about knowledge, it doesn't. The eyes will. His eye is just an organ to see something. But you have spiritual senses. And the senses are being projected through this organ. Is that okay? So it doesn't mean that you got knowledge there, it knows the whole Bhagavad-gita, the eyes, the ears. It's not like that. But it's to see things in its proper perspective when one's senses is purified. Because you're not the body. Make sense? Anybody
Hare
else? Yes, in the back there.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This,
Hare Krishna.
Here.
Oh,
Here.
somebody there. Oh. Yes.
Prabhuji, we see that the morning hours, the mode of goodness is prominent. But still when we sit to chant, even if we have taken good rest, we feel very sleepy, like we are in a mode of ignorance. So why does that happen and how can we overcome that?
Yeah, in the morning, the mode of goodness is there. Then as we progress, we move into passion and ignorance. So therefore, it's advisable to chant in the morning and do a lot of spiritual activities in the morning. But if one takes some rest, like Prabhupada would take some rest, and then he would again write and do his business, even to late hours of the morning. But the thing is, we have to practice. We have to train ourselves. Like if you live with people who are falling asleep all the time, Stop it. Okay. Okay, we'll stop here, huh? Okay, we'll stop here. Okay, we'll stop here. We have Kirtan? Oh, yeah. Prabhupada saying, no. If anybody has questions, they could come here and ask me. I could try to answer them. Yes. So, yeah. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.